By using this simple technique, I have massively increased the value of my pension. This can help to increase the rate at which a pension grows by between 25 and 60%. I know thinking about pensions and numbers and all that stuff is a bit like staring into the abyss.
Hello.
But bear with me, I'm going to make this really simple. Imagine you're putting £4,000 a year into your investments. Over 10 years, that will add up to £40,000 of contributions. Simples. But if you put that money into a pension, you will automatically get a massive chunk of money added on top of it from the government. Your £4,000 a year contribution would be topped up and become £5,000 a year. Now, the assumption is that you earned £5,000 a year gross, of which you were taxed 20%, so you lost £1,000. And what the government is doing is giving you back that £1,000 that you earned and were taxed because you've started a pension, so it's topping that pension up with money you've paid in tax. If you're a higher rate taxpayer, paying 40%, then at the end of the financial year, as well as the 20% that's automatically added on, you can then claim a further 20%, which the government could pay as a rebate to you in cash. You then, if you're really clever, put that into your SIP, your pension, and then that addition earns another 20% on top of it, which at the end of the year, you can claim another 20% on, and you just keep doing that, so it snowballs. So I'm going to show you a really simple visual example of how this works. So first of all, you need to set up a pension. I prefer self-invested personal pensions because number one, I can see exactly what's going on throughout. No one can lie to me about it. And number two, they're really cheap. I have control. I don't have some banker or investment company charging me loads of money, which sounds like a small amount, say 1% or something. It's actually a lot, and it's wiping out a lot of the gains I would otherwise keep. That doesn't happen with my self-invested personal pensions. So, if you don't know where to start by finding a personal pension, then go to my website, investwithoutbeingripped.com, and have a look at the top there where you'll be able to download a free copy of the review of around 25 investment companies and banks. And that includes the small number that I think are good enough for me to have actually included my own money, my actual pension in there, which I share on the website as well. Now, let's be clear. I do not get any benefit at all from you choosing any of those companies, whether you choose them or not. I have no association with them. I get no kickbacks. This is purely an independent review based on my years and years of experience in the industry. So here we go. You've set up your SIP and put some money into it.
Oh.
Next, the UK government automatically adds 20% to anything you put into your SIP. Then, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, you can claim a further 20% rebate at the end of the financial year from the taxman for the money you've put into your SIP. Invest that rebate into your SIP as well as your annual contribution.
Oh.
The government adds another 20% to all of the money you've contributed to your pension. You claim a further 20% on all the money you've contributed to your pension in that year. And then you put that into your SIP the following year.
Oh.
And so on. But it gets even better. Let's now see what it looks like when you allow for a little bit of growth on those investments. Over the past 30 years, the S&P 500 index, which is a broad reflection of company share prices in the US, it has risen by an average of 10% a year. Now, if we strip out inflation, we can say that that growth is roughly 6% a year. Now, investing in the S&P 500 alone is a fairly high-risk investment. It's just company shares. So you want to be pretty sure of the right level of risk for you before you start investing in anything, especially something as important as your pension or your retirement nest egg, whatever you want to call it. So to help you assess what the right level of risk is for you, I've included a questionnaire on my website. It's also in my book. So go and have a look at that, and that will give you an indication of what might be the right level of risk for you. Either way, let's assume you have a slightly lower level of risk than would be appropriate to invest only in the S&P 500. And as a result, we'll bring the annual growth down from 6% after inflation to 5% a year after inflation. Let's apply that to the numbers. the £40,000 that you invested in something that isn't a pension would grow by around £10,000 over 10 years. That would leave the total investment after 10 years at about £50,000. Now, the turbocharged £40,000 contribution would benefit from the extra £10,000 rebate and growth on all of it of over £12,000 over 10 years, bringing the total to more than £62,000. Think about that for a moment. That's a difference of £12,000. To put it into perspective, that's the equivalent of over 3,000 jars of Dino's famous Big Dogs with 75% pork meat. You know, the famous ones you've never heard of. If you're lucky enough to be a higher earner, investing the additional money into the SIPP with 5% growth a year would lift the initial £40,000 contribution to almost £77,000 after 10 years. That's a difference of £37,000 on the basic contribution you've made. In terms of Dino's famous Big Dogs with 75% pork meat, the ones that are famous that you've never heard of, well, let's just say that's a lot of wieners. This has worked incredibly well for me. Now, this is based on my unique circumstances, which obviously aren't yours, so don't necessarily do this, but for goodness sake, look into it, because it could make a whole heap of difference to the outlook of your future life and the size of the nest egg that you'll be depending on. Boringly, there are caveats that you have to bear in mind. Firstly, you can't claim back more tax than you've paid. You can't claim more than you've earned in a year, but you can carry some tax allowances over, so it needs to be looked into. Get financial advice if you need it from an independent financial advisor, not a tied advisor. And also, if you're a higher rate taxpayer, then the taxman may use some of the money that you would have got as a rebate in cash in order to pay any tax that's outstanding. So that can be frustrating, but at least it means you're being tax efficient. Now, I cover all of this in really clear terms in my book. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and you can look at it on the website as well. I get a link to it there on investwithoutbeingripped.com, or go have a look at Amazon if you want to look for it there. Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, or hopefully amusing, please share it with someone else who you think would be useful. And also, please, if you would, consider liking and subscribing, because it would make such a difference to me. In the meantime, have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.